Honestly, I think it's weird the direction Madrid are gonna go into. Of course, I don't think they could have matched how much Benzema's being offered at the Saudi Arabian club that he's going to, of course. But it would have been better to keep him for a year, for an extra year, because Real Madrid are already losing other players, including Mariano, Nacho, Hazard, Asensio is set to go to PSG, where he'll be earning 10 million euros a season. So up front, Madrid is going to be short-handed if we're being honest. Because we all, initially we thought when Benzema left, we thought maybe they were going to start using Hazard in a false nine position, and then have Vinicius Junior and Rodrigo coming through on the flanks to really be the anchors of our attack going forward. But I think this summer is going to be interesting, man, because you're going to see a lot of strikers in the market, and it's going to be highly competitive for a lot of European clubs, including because teams like Manchester United are out looking for a number nine. It's said to, uh, it's said that Chelsea are also looking for a number nine. Tottenham might look for a Harry Kane replacement just in case, and then there's more other teams. But coming back to Madrid, Madrid's gonna have to search far and wide for the perfect replacement for Benzema because he's been our best player and our leader despite his age. So yeah, it's quite interesting. But to bring it to the Saudi Arabian League, I like the direction that they're heading to. Just shows they're trying to make it as commercial as possible, bringing in all these highly accomplished players. I think when Cruz last year ends at Real Madrid, as well as Modric, there might be interest of them also going to the Saudi Arabian League. So I think the growth that the Saudi Arabian League's going to, they really have pure intentions of becoming one of the top leagues in the world. Hopefully putting Africa in them on the map. There's been talks that the Confederation of the African Footballers Association want to strike a deal with Saudi Arabia to create a new African Super League, which would be very good for them, as including for their World Cup bid in 2030. So I think they're going in the right direction involving the growth of their league and what they got to offer.
TB, I'm gonna have to disagree with you there. We were saying it off air, while our Bakwe was saying it off air, that this reminds this reminds us of the Chinese Super League where they were paying players a lot of money just to come to their league. Although with Saudi Arabia, I think they're paying them a whole lot more. I think the fact that all of these players are going there, it's a thing of the players wanting that last final paycheck to secure the future for not just their children, but their grandchildren as well. I mean, Messi, I think, has an offer to go there of about 100 million or 200 million a season, if I'm not mistaken. But to get to the wider point,
Wait,
there's
sorry to cut you off on the Messi deal. It's actually $1.2 billion for 2 seasons, so it's
you
about
see,
600 million a season.
that's a lot of money, man. Like Messi is, that's not generational wealth. I mean, that's like many lifetimes, my man. Like to the next century, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, to get back to the main point, you mentioned the 2030 bid. I think that's what this is about. Saudi Arabia have made Messi their tourism ambassador. They're paying him a lot of money for that. They obviously also want to bring him into the country. That's part of why he got into trouble with PSG, but that's a separate matter. And then I doubt this is gonna last. because after China put in all their money, eventually that league just fell apart. And I'm very skeptical about their plan because after the World Cup, where do you go from there? And the players they're getting, yes, they're very good players and it will be a boost for the short term. But most of those players are players that are winding down their careers and are past their best. I mean, Busquets, one of the greatest DMs, but this hasn't been one of his best seasons. He's probably got a year or two left. N'Golo Kante is another player who's been linked with that league. He's struggled a lot with injuries and fitness. So I'm not really that sold on this project. There are clear intentions. They want to drum up some attention and some eyes because of their 2030 World Cup bid to get some more eyes on their league, which is smart. I mean, I've read somewhere that they even want to invest about 20 billion to bring all these big stars in and invest in the infrastructure. But I don't think this will last really. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, you guys do both make fair points though, but I think that you know what, though I do also think it's kind of heading the same direction as the Chinese Super League. I think it might be more successful in that case. It all depends if they can like learn from the mistakes of the Chinese Super League, because what the Chinese Super League did, or let's say where they went wrong, is that after a while they could not afford to pay players wages because of how much they were offering. So they're gonna have to learn to manage that and not become one of those countries that are just viewed as a place to go, for that big final paycheck and something. It should be like more of a thing where they try to build at least a footballing culture there, same way they did with the whole Qatar World Cup thing. Even though I don't really think they developed a very strong footballing culture there at all. Yeah, I still don't know what's going to happen to the stadiums that side. But yeah, I think it will be a bit or slightly different in the Saudi Arabia League though. Um, I think over time, maybe, just maybe, we might at least hear a lot more big name players. In what continent is it? It's in Asia, eh? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Okay,
Asia.
now so we won't see them in European competitions, so that's a problem. Um, yeah, I don't know how you're gonna really boost it. I think the only time you really hear about the Saudi Arabia League is probably through maybe commercial reasons. They could become big in terms of streaming services if they, of course, they have the money to buy those things. So yeah, that's one way they could at least boost that league per se. But to revert back to the whole segment of what is this? Because we straight off heavy. Benzema, leaving. Yeah, it's one of those, man. It's becoming to those sad realization that a lot of the players we grew up watching are already starting to retire, bro. Like even what is it, yesterday? Where we saw Zlatan Ibrahimovic also retire from football. Oh my goodness, bro. The sadness I felt there, because what a great footballer and a great career he had. Of course, he didn't really win much. Like, he talked as if he won everything, but we fucking we love the confidence that he had anyway, the arrogance per se. But yeah, that was just Zlatan, man. Uh, yeah, it's one of those sad things, bro. If I felt that way I felt yesterday for Zlatan, bro, I cannot imagine how I'm going to feel when Ronaldo and Messi hang up their boots, bro. Literally, that's going to hit us deep. I'm sure the whole footballing world per se. Um, but yeah, we getting to that point right now. Where a lot of the big name players that we used to love are just hanging up their boots, bro. So right now we're just enjoying them as much as we can. Like you even said, Mush, Busquets, one of the best DMs we've seen growing up. Also, clearly running out of legs right now. Even though he can still play football brilliantly, it's just, yeah, he doesn't have it in him to continue, like, full seasons like he used to per se. Kante also struggling with injuries. Modric and Kroos also, um, if I revert back to that City game, the way they were outrunning that midfield doesn't also seem like they might have a lot in it with them. Um, I saw there's also a chance that Modric might leave Madrid too, if I'm not mistaken. There's rumors linking him to a move away. But yeah, we'll see how those rumors partake. And in terms of Madrid and their, how can I say, rebuilding phase. Yeah, they're probably gonna go through a rebuilding phase because I don't think they have a forward right now. Like Tabang also said, there's a shortage of top number nines in world football at this point. But yeah, there's always a lot of young talents out there that they can, nurture maybe. Or but knowing Madrid, they'll probably go spend on another Galactico. So I don't know if they have these sights set on Mbappe again or not. But yeah, if they do get Mbappe, then we know how long that team is still gonna continue to dominate because wow, Mbappe, Vinicius, and Rodrigo on the same team. Jeez, bro. Yeah, nah, we can't have that. We can't have that in football. That's greediness. Let's be honest. But yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it. Remember, they're probably gonna go through a rebuilding phase right now. I don't think they're gonna. Yeah, knowing them, it's not gonna be a big rebuilding phase. But yeah, losing Benzema, the leader that he was, you know, not necessarily the best player. He's been the best player last season, yeah, but this season was Vinicius by far, Tabang. Just to correct you there, it was Vinicius, clearly Vinicius. But yeah, we'll see how far Real Madrid are gonna go. In terms of that forward line though, because they do need to replace Benzema, and that's a lot of goals contributions that they're gonna be losing. So yeah, whoever they bring up next will have some very big shoes to fill. And yeah, to revert to the Saudi Arabia League, um, yeah, nah, listen, just there's hope for it. I did remember Ronaldo saying that it's gonna be a big league soon. I don't know how big it'll get, but I think commercially it could sell. It could definitely sell and probably get a couple views if, like I said, if they get, viewing rights and all those things. So yeah, we'll see. I think it's one of those things that only time will tell. This is like Monashi said, all an attempt to help them, impress FIFA and showing them, what we are a footballing country and we will be worthy to host the 2030 World Cup, which I think at this rate they clearly will be because if Qatar could get it, Saudi Arabia would definitely will too, But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one to see though, for sure.
All right.
To add, wait, just before we go on to the next topic, to add on to what you just said about the Saudi Arabian League, guys. Here's why I think it won't turn out like the Chinese league because the Saudi Arabian League has really made their intentions pure of how they would like the league to be, how they would like to grow the league in the next 5 years. The under 20 World Cup. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to it. They've really monitored a lot of those young players in this season's under 20 World Cup. Nigeria finished in the semi-finals. They uh, they were unlucky to lose against South Korea, but they have intentions of taking a lot of that African talent and bringing them to the Saudi Arabian League to really increase the level of competition and allow those players to already be in a professional setting amongst some of the best players um, coming out of Europe to the league. There's notable players like Igalos in the league. You got Cristiano Ronaldo. You got Benzema coming now. So can you imagine the influence that those players are going to have on this league and how their influence will well, what their influence will do with regards to raising the level of play in the league as well. I think a lot of those teams are gonna really go out looking for great players to bring into their team. It's going to become much more competitive. So and also their plans of how much money they're willing to put in really gives me hope of what they're trying to build there. I think they would have learned from the Chinese Super League for sure. A lot of up and coming leagues would have learned from the Chinese Super League's mistakes. So I really think, who knows where they'll be 5 years from now, if we're being honest.
After the World Cup, no one will hear anything about the Saudi Arabian League. We'll hear about players leaving en masse because they are underpaid. I have absolutely zero faith in this project after the World Cup, and that's pretty much
Yeah,
it.
you see, but
And
that's kind of
then
the thing. Just sorry to cut you off, but that's pretty much where I get Tavan's statement insane, bro. Like the amount of time they have right now, they have what, 6+ years to pretty much, get this.
six, yeah.
Yeah, 6+ years to get things right, to the point where even after the World Cup, that there is a structured footballing culture there, bro. That could, of course, I'm not gonna say it's gonna blow up to be one of the
Exactly.
biggest leagues in the world, but it could potentially be at least, MLS, but a bit higher, I guess, if you get what I'm trying to say. Like the MLS, but a bit more well known, I guess, in that sense. So yeah, there's plenty of time for them to get it right, bro. Literally. And the way they're going about it, sure, we all know that splashing money is not usually the way to go about it, but like Tavan said, they have some structured plans in place to make sure to get it right. So yeah, only time will tell, though.
Qatar also had some structured plans. Look where the stadiums are at now. No one really uses them. But I guess time will
Listen,
tell.
okay, wait. Sorry to cut you off now. Here's the difference between Qatar and what Saudi Arabia is trying to do. When Qatar hosted the World Cup, it was purely just for tourism gains, if we're being honest. They had no plan. They never even announced what type of plans they have going forward. And if they did, they never stuck to their promises. I mean, you saw immediately after the World Cup how they dismantled the stadium. So that was already a big indicator of their intentions. You know, the World Cup was purely just for show and to put Saudi Arabia on the map of people's of their tourism sector. If we're being honest, they want guests to go to Saudi Arabia. It was meant to improve their image. It wasn't ever meant they never had intentions of bringing in a league or anything like that. And if they did say that, you saw how the world saw how it worked out in the end. It was all for show. Saudi Arabia is actually showing you what they are doing, and their structures they are implementing at this very moment, and the investments that they're putting into bringing bringing an African Super League and bringing in some of Europe's most accomplished players, whether they're on their last legs or not. All these guys bring in massive commercial gains. All these guys elevate the talent in the league immediately. They rise the level. Teams are going to want to be as competitive as possible. So there's going to be more players bringing in. They've mentioned their plans of integrating young up and coming players and how they've looked at the under 20 World Cup and how they're going to take advantage of that. You saw how well the Nigerian under 20 players did. You saw, and I mentioned how they want to bring in some of those African teams that did well, players like from Nigeria and Senegal, and bring them into the league and really get them going there as well. And that already opens a big space for that African talent that always goes unseen. They're going to provide the platform for them to be able to showcase their talents on the global stage, and hopefully attract that European attention. So these are their plans. So we've seen it. We see how they're moving on it. So that's why I'm saying 5 years, 6 years from now, only time will tell how they're gonna do. But what I'm seeing, it's very positive things. It's not anything similar to what Qatar did.